Good morning, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance in person. However, councillors and members of the public may still join meetings remotely using our teleconference process. The chair may ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic, and at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. Individuals will be allotted 5 minutes to speak or 10 minutes for a group as per our procedure bylaw. If the meeting is recessed, callers will be put on hold until the meeting reconvenes, with the exception at noon where callers will be asked to call back in. This helps with call quality. Please note this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We also ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the Municipal Government Act, Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. We have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or changes? Councillor Kester.
I would like a request under 8.4. I have a ratepayer request. Oh, sorry. And a councillor request too. I got an idea in my head.
Can you share the nature of the topic of the discussion? Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other additions or changes? If not, a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Do we have any council notices of motion? We'll move to agenda item 3.1, bylaw 2025-13, a land redesignation. Motion please to recess from regular council meeting.
Just through the chair, no motion required to recess from the council or from the council meeting, just a motion to open the public hearing. Thank you.
Oh, yes, my apologies. A motion to call the public hearing to order. Thank you, CAO Henderson. Councillor Kester.
The council moves to open public hearing for bylaw 2025-13.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Good morning, everyone. As per Section 192 of the Procedure Bylaw, the public hearing will be conducted in the following order. First, we'll have a report by our administration. Then there will be an opportunity for a presentation by the applicant. Then there will be presentations by the public in support of the proposal, followed by presentations by the public in opposition of the proposal. Then a rebuttal presentation by the applicant, limited only to the comments read or heard in opposition to the proposal. And final questions of administration, and then a council motion to close the public hearing. The applicant will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Any individuals supporting or opposing the proposal will have up to 5 minutes to speak, and any groups of individuals will have up to 10 minutes to speak. The applicant will then have a maximum of 10 minutes to present their rebuttal. If there are any questions relating to this process, please refer to the procedure bylaw. Can administration please verify that notice of the public hearing was circulated in accordance with the MGA?
Through the chair, yes, it was.
Thank you. And are there any written submissions that are not in the council package?
No.
Thank you. And we just kindly request that anyone making a presentation please state their name and address for the record.
Good morning, Council. Jessica Russell with Planning and Development Services, presenting bylaw 2025-13, which proposes to redesignate a plus or minus 1.34 hectare portion of land from the Agriculture General District to the Country Residential District. The lands are located approximately 800 meters north of the hamlet of Lealta and the intersection of Range Road 264 and Township Road 252. The application proposes to redesignate the lands from the Agriculture General District to the Country Residential District to allow for subdivision of Lot 1 for residential development. The subdivision proposes to create a plus or minus 1.34 hectare parcel and a plus or minus 6.74 hectare remainder. Lot 1 is currently undeveloped with proposed development of a residence and accessory buildings with private water and wastewater systems. Lot 1 is accessed by an existing approach from Range Road 264 to the west. Lot 2 is developed with a farmstead and accessory buildings with private water and wastewater systems existing. Lot 2 is accessed by 2 existing approaches from Range Road 264 to the west. Water servicing for Lot 1 is proposed by a water well. The application includes a Phase 1 groundwater supply assessment, which concludes that there are sufficient aquifer supplies to accommodate the proposed residential development. Upon review of the technical reports, the county's third-party engineers confirm that the diversion of water for household purposes will not interfere with agricultural or household users in the area. Wastewater servicing for Lot 1 is proposed by individual private sewage treatment system. The application includes a PSTS assessment and site evaluation, which demonstrates feasibility of the proposed low-density residential development on the parcel, suggesting installation of a soil-based on-site wastewater treatment system with considerations. Lastly, the application includes a site-specific stormwater implementation plan, which includes recommendations for erosion and sediment control purposes, with no stormwater management required until construction. Upon review of the plan, the county's third-party engineers note that the proposed bioretention area may conflict with one of the proposed locations for the sanitary treatment system area, which may be courted by the applicant. The proposed redesignation accommodates a proposed country residential use. Lot 1 is within an existing parcel which reflects the existing conditions of the land and minimizes impact to agricultural lands, aligning with policies 3.1.2.5 G to H of the MDP. The proposal demonstrates efficient land use with minimal impacts to agricultural operations, consistent with the residential objectives of the MDP. Pursuant to Policy 3.6.2.6, the application includes technical considerations, demonstrating that the proposal is not expected to cause adverse impacts to the natural environment. The proposal results in 3 parcels within the quarter section. The subject lands are located within the Homesteads Area Structure Plan area, identified as Phase 3. Section 7.1.3 of the Homesteads ASP notes that Phase 3 includes the commercial core of the community. Lot 1 is in an area identified as a future roadway through the figures in the Homesteads ASP, providing primary entrance from Range Road 264 to the west to the community. In review of the previous subdivision application for the existing parcel, it was noted that locating the future roadway north of the subject lands may be preferable to the proposed location through the existing parcel. The proposed location north of the subject lands considers the preservation of agricultural lands, efficient land uses, and flexibility for future development of Phase 3. The ASP requires an outline plan, including identification of road networks and open space networks for the development of Phase 3. Section 6.1.1 notes that the Homesteads ASP is conceptual and lot boundaries and land uses may be determined at the redesignation and subdivision stages. This application is for a single parcel subdivision within an existing parcel and is not pursuant to the development of Phase 3 of the Homesteads ASP. Therefore, an outline plan was not required for this application. The proposed parcel size is consistent with the site regulations in the Country Residential District, which is an appropriate district for the proposed parcel size and intended use of the lands. Notice of the public hearing was sent in accordance with the MGA. Once submission was received, included in the agenda package. Administration recommends approval as per the motions provided. This concludes the presentation of Bylaw 2025-13, and I am available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for administration? Would the applicant like to present? If you could come to the podium and just state your name and address. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. My name is Scott Walls from Iron Bridge Farms, 252045B Range Road, 264, Wheatland County. Excuse me, I don't speak in public, so. I'm here as the applicant for the redesignation application of the 3.31 acres of our family farmyard at Lyalta. We are hoping to subdivide this parcel from our 20-acre piece for our daughter and her family to move back home and build their forever home and a lifetime of memories as we have in the past. Even though we have downsized in our farming, it has been our dream and our children's to have all the, to share all of their lives in the same yard and raise their families surrounded by generations, love and support as they had when they were small. Growing up on our family farm is a treasure that fewer and fewer generations will ever be able to achieve nowadays and cannot be replaced by anything. Currently, they live 4.5 hours away in Vermilion and are patiently waiting for the approval to move on and move down here and allow 4 generations of our family to build their lives on the same parcel of land and will hopefully be in the family for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any members of the public who would like to speak in support of the application? In our process, I have to ask 3 times for each part. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak in support of the proposal? I'll call a 3rd and final time. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak in support of the proposal? We'll now ask any members of the public who would like to speak in opposition of the proposal. I'll call a 2nd time. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak in opposition of the proposal? I'll call a 3rd and final time. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak in opposition of the proposal? Hearing no opposition, we don't need you to present a rebuttal.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any final questions of our administration? Hearing none, council motion to close the public hearing. Councillor Laverson.
I'll move we close the public hearing.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council moves first reading of bylaw 2025-13, this being a bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw 2016-01 to redesignate plus or minus 1.34 hectares within portion of Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 2312058 from Agriculture General District to County Residential District as shown in the attached Schedule A, forming part of this bylaw.
Thank you, Councillor Laverson. Any questions or discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes.
I'll move second reading.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes.
Move the council grants permission to hold 3rd and final reading of bylaw 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried unanimously. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council moves 3rd reading of bylaw 2025-13.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.2.
Good morning, Council. Stephen Kuntz on behalf of administration. Today's item begins on page 20 of the agenda. As we can see on page 25, the area. So this considers an encroachment agreement with the landowner of 349 Eagle Lake Close. To permit an existing garage to encroach 0.12 meters over the north or the front property line, and an existing concrete pad to encroach 2.1 meters over the south or rear property line. You may recall this from the May 13th Municipal Planning Commission meeting, when the variances were granted with the condition that the applicant or owner enter into an encroachment agreement with the approval of council, which is why we're here today. Internal staff were circulated during the DP application. There were no concerns. Particularly, the County Transportation Department specified there were no concerns regarding the encroachment into the road right-of-way. The report includes photographs of the garage, as well as the concrete pad. It also has a summary of the items included within the encroachment agreement, as well as a copy of the template encroachment agreement itself. These address items such as the term and termination, removal, maintenance, risks, insurance, and caveats. So in accordance with the motion on page 20, we are recommending that council approve the signing of the encroachment agreement. That concludes my presentation, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for administration? Council's wishes. Councillor Kester.
Just one question. This encroachment, the property it's encroaching on is private or public land?
Through the chair, they're both public. To the north is the road right-of-way, and to the south is Wheatland County land adjacent to the lake.
Any other questions? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approve an encroachment agreement with the owner of 349 Eagle Lake Close to permit a garage encroachment of 0.12 meters over the north property line and a concrete pad encroachment of 2.1 meters over the south property line of Plan 2487JK, Block 1, Lot 18, and authorize the Reeve and CAO to sign the agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.3, bylaw 2025-10.
Morning, Council. Dave Reynolds from Community Services, presenting draft Parks and Open Space Areas Bylaw 2025-10. Council reviewed the draft Parks and Open Space Areas Bylaw May 6th meeting and requested a few changes to that bylaw. Administration have amended the bylaw Schedule A. The penalties were kind of similar, so we had deleted number 35 and to avoid that duplication. And then there was questions around camping, the camping fees. So there's some information there about either we can do it online for those or just keep them as complimentary as free sites as well. So there's options around that, as well as the unmanned aerial vehicle drones. There's information in the report about some of the regulations around the drone flights, and the smaller drones could be allowed in areas that we could designate. One of the would be Severn Dam, and I thought about another one could be the Gleason Reservoir site as well. So there could be some sites we could designate as drone flight areas. And the designated areas, that question came up in the bylaw so we could, the plan would be to have that on the website, so we'd have those areas designated for, what's expected in those kind of areas, like if it's drone flights or like cooking would be allowed in all, the question came up around cooking, so they'd be allowed in all the park sites. We may not have it along the side of the road, but we'd have it on, like the park, we designate those areas, right? So it'd be clear on the website, and we'd have frequently asked questions, and we have some samples of that in the report as well. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for addressing the council discussion points. I think we really appreciate that. Any questions or discussion on the updated draft bylaw?
I just have a question, unless I'm missing it. So if you had an animal at large, I don't see where it's in the fee schedule or penalty
fines?
schedule? But maybe it's under something else, or it's covered somewhere else?
It would fall under the animal control bylaws. It'd
Okay.
be covered off in a
So it's covered that way? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Councillor Kester?
A couple concerns of this drone thing, and I don't know where it come up from or why we're so worried about it, especially at Severn Dam. I'm not in favor of drones. That's a busy place, and I don't think people that are going there would appreciate drones. I know they have to be 100 feet away, 30 meters. But that doesn't leave, if they're over the water, it just, to me, is a bad place. Secondly, just so staff's aware, I've had reports of people driving around the barriers there. And so far, I haven't had any complaints about it closed off. I think people are generally happy there that we're doing something finally. And yeah, I'm good with the rest. If we could just remove that drone thing. If you want to do it out at Gleason there at the old reservoir site, that's probably not nearly as busy. But I don't know why. We've never had drones there before. I don't remember anybody asking to even have a drone fly there.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any other questions or discussion?
I guess on that conversation, do we even have the power or authority to prohibit drones? I don't think it's under our, it's federal.
Just through the chair, I think we'd have to take that one back and take a look at that one.
Any other questions or discussion?
Quite a few neighbors that are around me used to fly the model planes, and they had boats too. I don't know about the boats so much anymore, but there was quite a few. Some of these planes are quite elaborate. Since the drones come and the new regulations, they hung up the planes. They can't afford it anymore. I know these are smaller drones, but it's affected a lot of people in my area that flew these planes.
Yes.
Any other questions or discussion?
I was just, through the chair to council, in the report on page 40, I think that might be 39, there were definitions as to the drones and what was required and with the licenses. As the larger drones, you're correct, would be regulated with having a pilot license, and all of the lightweight ones that were under the 250 grams didn't require anything, the model ones. And so, and I think the way the bylaw was written, Dave can correct me if I've stated it wrong, is that we're not saying they're allowed in those areas. We were going to do it through the CAO, that if we designated an area, then we'd post it. So right now, we have not designated an area that would be appropriate for drones.
I understand that, but when people see that in print, they're going to put the pressure on the CAO, and I just want to lighten his workload a little bit.
just in response to that, I think if you're not hearing a significant, like, interest in flying drones, it shouldn't be too arduous in terms of requests. And if you, so just so I understand, if you were designating a space, that would be essentially posting signage saying it's permitted. If the CAO were to designate a space, so it wouldn't, again, it wouldn't be an ongoing arduous workload issue, if I'm understanding correctly.
Through the chair, yes, it would be to do it on the website, to designate those areas, and we could post them if we wanted to do that as well. It'd go that far. But yeah, we haven't had any requests around that. It was just a question at council that we could go that far if we needed to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the idea that in the bylaw, it identifies that we can designate an area. We're not specifically saying in the bylaw anything, so it just leaves it open, and we can be flexible on that.
And that's what I was thinking. It could be quite nimble, so if there are requests, there could be designations. If there are concerns or issues, then that designation could be reviewed by the CAO and adjusted based on if there's issues. I do have a question. It might be more for bylaw, and I probably should know this. On page 51, under section 25 offenses, it says any person in contravention of any section of this bylaw is guilty of an offense and is liable upon summary conviction to a fine of not more than $10,000 or imprisonment for not more than 1 year or both. And then I recognize that we have the Schedule A with the penalties. When would the like $10,000, like the maximum $10,000 fine or imprisonment for a contravention be exercised? Good morning.
So yeah, I can briefly answer. It's a pretty standard clause that's in most bylaws, and it's only ever that is imposed by a judge in a judgment. The only time that would ever come up is if we were approaching a justice with the intent to seek greater punishment. So generally that's reserved for if it is a multiple over and over offense, we would have to actually initiate that to justice by an intent to seek greater punishment. The scheduled offense in the schedule of offense fines is what would be used in most 99.9% of that without us initiating that. It does scare a lot of people. It's also on remedial orders. It's also on pretty much every bylaw. But it does freak people out a little bit because they see the imprisonment and the 10,000, but that's the extent of it.
So it would be reserved for those very extreme or repeated offenses?
Absolutely. It would be very extreme repeated offenses.
Excellent. Thank you so much for clarifying. Any other questions or discussion on the bylaw? Councillor Kester.
I could be in favor of it if we just strike Severn Dam from the drone thing and just leave, I think that was on page 40.
So that's not within the bylaw. Severn Dam is being designated as an area of parks and open space area, and I don't think we want to strike that. The drone use would be a future consideration by administration for designation, but it's not included within the bylaw itself.
Yeah, on B, what's the 3B2, last paragraph. In alignment with this authority, the Severn Creek Dam Recreation Area is suggested as a prudential designation site for micro drone use.
Yeah, so just suggested, but that would be.
Strike that sentence and I'll be in favor of it. You don't strike it, I can't be in favor. So I'll make a motion that we amend the bylaw to strike that particular sentence. And then we can still have the drones. The CAO can still monitor it. He can direct it to this space or any space he wants to take a chance with. But I don't want it out in the public, oh, we can go to Severn Creek and have drones. I'll leave it up to the CEO to regulate any requests.
Yeah, it doesn't change the intent of the bylaw to remove that. It's probably prudent to remove it. I don't think we want a suggestion And that's just in the report, that's not in the bylaw. So page 40 is just the report from administration. The actual bylaw starts on page 44.
Okay, my mistake.
I'm sure it's, I never thought of it before, and I'm sure it's covered somewhere else, is by managing a campground at one time. Fireworks was sometimes a problem.
It's referenced under dangerous.
Is it under dangerous?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, page 48 of the bylaw, or page 48 of the agenda package.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Kester, would you consider withdrawing your motion?
If it's
Considering
not
it
in the
doesn't-
bylaw, yeah, it's the report, I'm okay with that,
Okay, thank you.
because the report isn't mine.
So you will withdraw your motion? Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion on the draft bylaw?
I've got just, got a question on the, in the bylaw, number 13. And it's about cannabis consumption. Are we allowed to do that? Like cannabis is it's not like liquor. You got an open container law for liquor. But cannabis is now considered more or less tobacco. And I just sort of want to know how that sort of works.
Sorry, I could address that if you like, Sarah. It's, so cannabis in Canada is considered the same as liquor. It is, the laws are almost exactly the same as liquor for legislation. So just for open possession and for consumption, it is governed on almost the same stance as alcohol. You can't consume or possess in a vehicle within reach of the driver. You can't operate a motor vehicle on cannabis the same as you could with alcohol. You can't consume alcohol or cannabis at a public park usually, or any kind of area where there are children around. So that would just give us, again, that would give us a tool in which to, if we have a public park space, there's children around, people are consuming cannabis, we can remove them from the park or ask them to leave. So that's what that's there for. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on the bylaw? That's okay. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approves the amendments to bylaw 2025-10 as presented in Schedule A.
Thank you, Councillor Priest. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried.
I move that council move second reading of bylaw 2025-10 as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions or discussion? Councillor Laverson.
We withdrew the amendment, did we not?
I think this is the amendments from the original.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, that's
Presentation.
not really amendments made today then, so it would just be the bylaw.
Yeah, I think because we already had the bylaw presented, we just need to indicate as amended. I believe it's striking the one fine. I think that might have been the primary change. There's the red line version there to show. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes. Deputy Reeve Glasson.
I'll move that council moves third reading of bylaw 2025-10 as amended.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.4.
Morning, Council. Joel here from Financial Services to present bylaw 2025-16. This is just a simple housekeeping item for the purpose of repealing the loan bylaw. The loan has been repaid and the purpose of the bylaw is fulfilled. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Council's wishes.
Before I make a motion, I'd just like to make a comment. These fire departments out the east side of the county, the associations, Rosebud being one, Standard, Delham, Hazar, somewhat, Rocky Ford, have all got new fire halls, and they all paid around 40% of the cost of these halls. And Rosebud was a little short, and they borrowed money to build it, and it's all paid back. So I'd like to congratulate them on their community spirit. And I'll move that council moves first reading bylaw 2025-16 being a bylaw to repeal the Rosebud Fire Association loan bylaw 2010-14.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes.
I'll move second reading.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes.
I'll move the council grants permission to hold third and final reading, bylaw 2025-16.
Thank you, Councillor Eichert. Any questions? I'll call the question. That motion is carried unanimously. Council's wishes.
I move the council moves third and final reading of bylaw 2025-16.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.5.
Joel again from Financial Services. Just go to the right page here. So this is bylaw 2025-17, very similar to the last agenda item. The housekeeping, and the purpose is repealing the loan, which has already been completed and repaid. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Council's wishes.
Just a question. Is there a Strathmore Rural Firefighting Association?
It's been dissolved.
It's gone.
Through the chair, so you're correct that this was dissolved, and it was part of the reconciliation at the time. The loan was kind of part of the financial reconciliation at the time of dissolution.
I know it's housekeeping, but it seems like it should be an automatic almost. But I'll move council moves first reading of bylaw 2025-17 being a bylaw to repeal Strathmore Rural Firefighting Association loan bylaw 2012-104.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'll move second reading of bylaw 2025-17.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes.
I'll move council grants the permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2025-17.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried unanimously.
Just one question. Was the loan paid for?
Through the chair, that's correct. The loan is complete. It's completely paid for.
I'll move that council moves third and final reading of bylaw 2025-17.
Any questions or discussion? I will call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.6.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 82 of your agenda package is the procedure bylaw. So the reason the procedure bylaw is coming before Council today is that on May 15th, 2025, Bill 50 received royal assent, and in Bill 50, the Municipal Code of Conduct bylaws are all repealed, effective immediately. So we just, what administration did was we removed that bylaw off of our website, and then we just needed to update this bylaw in particular to remove any wording of the Code of Conduct bylaw from the procedure bylaw. Also, we did also remove the requirement of the Integrity Commissioner from the organizational meeting as well. And that was just as we had an Integrity Commission to review the Code of Conduct infractions by council if any were committed. So the bylaw starts on page 84 or 85 of your council package. If there's any questions about this bylaw, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Henderson. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approves first reading of procedure bylaw 2025-18.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Council's wishes.
I'll move the council approve second reading bylaw 2025-18.
Thank you, Councillor Custer. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried.
I'll move that council grant permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2025-18.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. And that motion is carried unanimously.
I'll move that council approves third and final reading of bylaw 2025-18.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 5. Council's wishes for the consent agenda.
I was actually going to ask if we could remove the municipal affairs letter regarding municipal indicator results.
Certainly. So that's agenda item 5.8. We can move that to 6. Is there anything else anybody would like removed from the consent agenda? If we could just have a motion, Councillor Laprise, to remove agenda item 5.8 and add it under agenda item 6.1.
Then, yes, I'll move to remove consent agenda, sorry, which was it? 5.8, thank you. Municipal Affairs Correspondence dated May 21st, 2025, regarding the 2024 municipal indicator results, and added under agenda item 6.1.
Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. And if we could have a motion for approval of the consent agenda with changes, including 5.1 through 5.7 and 5.9 through 5.11.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 6.1, a discussion on the municipal affairs letter regarding the municipal indicator results.
Just wanted to raise it in our meeting, just so that for anybody listening or reading the package, that just a confirmation from administration. This is obviously why we're doing our asset management planning, and this is something that we're actively working on and looking to address the upgrading of all of our infrastructure.
Yes, so through the Reeve to council, this indicator, Wheatland County does typically fall below the 40% benchmark. And we always have, and we most likely always will. And it's a very interesting reason why. So General Manager Bullock actually reminded me of this earlier in the week, the reason why. And it really has to do with the net book value of our assets. So the county, on our financial statement, I'd have to go take a look, but it's a significant number. But the significant number is the cost of our roads. So we never write off any cost of our roads. So all the roads that were built in the 50s and 60s are fully depreciated. So the net book value is a starting cost, and they're fully depreciated, but the roads are still used to this day. Some roads in the county have been in use for 60, 70 years kind of thing. But the useful life of a gravel road on our books is 30 years. So the benchmark line is 40%. And kind of an interesting thing is they do talk about pitfalls of this specific indicator. So the common pitfalls and limitations of this specific indicator are historical costs, not replacement costs. It does ignore the actual condition of the assets themselves. And it also can be skewed by, I guess, large amount of assets that were historically built. So that's one I think the county has, and it would say at risk if we have missed this for 3 consecutive years, and I believe we have. And it's actually very funny. The one example that Municipal Affairs does provide is Lacombe County in 2020. In 2020 has a dashboard showing their infrastructure age is at 38%. So ours is, I think, 34. It's on the report. So administration does review it. And we did want to show council that, yes, we are below the benchmark, but I feel like the benchmark may not be reflective of the actual asset condition. For sure, we are doing asset management, and there are assets that are going to be required to be replaced, but the net book value of all of our assets combined is a lot, and it just kind of, I don't think we'll ever get above 40%. And it's not that the assets are in poor condition, it's just the vast amount of roads, curbs, gutters, all of that stuff is just, they get depreciated. Council could always change their asset policy and kind of change those numbers, but I wouldn't advise that. I think that would be a big kind of make work project to kind of move a number up a little bit, but again, doesn't really matter. So that's all I have. Thank you.
That's great. I appreciate just having the conversation about it, so that's all I was looking for. Thank you.
And what I can do as well is I can email out the information I have on that specific municipal indicator to all of council, just so they have it. If you guys do experience any question from ratepayers on this kind of threshold test for municipal affairs.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
When I looked at this, I kind of figured that's what it was, but it also, on a report that's public information, it looks like we were not doing our job, and I don't like that. Because I think this county has been well looked after from previous councils and administrations, and it is a huge county. So is there a way, so is our benchmark set by the province as well? So are they working on having maybe a different one for rural areas versus urban? And something that could screw this up too, a hamlet could fail and we end up with it. And the asset age of some of those will probably put us way down in the red again, to be honest. Like, there's got to be some work done, maybe for RMA does, I don't know, has talked about this, but I'm sure there's other municipalities, counties that have this same problem, and something we should be maybe trying to get equalized out so we don't look bad. I mean, you can use it two ways. You can use it as a way to get more funding, but I mean, we have a huge network of roads and bridges that are 50 years old, and they're on the books, but you don't replace them until you have to.
Yeah, certainly excellent discussion, and thank you to CAO Henderson for the explanation. I can certainly look into it with RMA if this is something that we're addressing with municipal affairs or contemplating addressing. I think the key thing, and I appreciate it being pulled off of the consent agenda, there are a lot of rural municipalities that don't meet this threshold and that are flagged. I think the key thing is transparency, that we're acknowledging that we do have a red number on page 129, that we're transparent about that, and that there is a very valid explanation from our administration. I do think it's probably prudent to look at, is there a way to strengthen the reporting so that perhaps it could reflect that actual condition and sort of life cycle of the infrastructure that it's referencing. So that's something I think we could look into. Councillor Custer?
I know we worked hard, but our roads, our bridges are sorry about that. Our bridges are bad shape. They're all restricted. I think I got one in my division that I found, maybe two. I don't know if it didn't get looked at yet. All restricted, every one. That's huge. I got bridges that are restricted that have to have bridges put back on, but down the road, a couple miles, there's culverts. It's not all county, that's environment to make these rules. They're harder to replace. I wanted to bring this up later, but this is just a touch on it. This bridge thing is going to be a huge concern in the county. It's coming up and we have to have a plan to fix it. I don't like seeing a red mark there either, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's a warning. We have to buckle down and get to work on this.
Yeah, and I think, as Councillor Laprice referenced, obviously over several years we've been doing substantive work on asset management, which is to address that exact concern. And if I recall correctly, we identified we have about $137 million of bridge liabilities, the third largest bridge inventory in the province. So certainly it is a substantive responsibility, and I think what administration has indicated is that we will be integrating that asset management analysis into future capital planning. So it is daunting. There's $17 billion of infrastructure liability in rural municipalities across Alberta and similar reflective states of infrastructure that's provincially owned as well. So we know that there's going to need to be significant investment in maintaining that infrastructure, and will need to be a future priority for council as well. So really good discussion. I think excellent to have that transparency, and I will inquire with RMA if it's on the radar, just for an opportunity to perhaps look at the indicator and how it could better reflect actual condition of, for example, roads and useful life. Any other questions or discussion on the correspondence from Municipal Affairs? So then I think we just need a motion to accept for information.
Also move.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. It looks like that motion was carried. I do see our 10 a.m. appointment is present. Does anybody on council object to moving to our 10 a.m. appointment? Yeah, sure. Let's have a 2-minute break and then we'll reconvene. We'll do a 3-minute break and reconvene at 10 a.m. Thanks, everybody. We'll call the meeting back to order and we'll welcome our 10 a.m. appointment, Mrs. Wakelam, our Wheatland County Member at Large for the Wheatland Housing Management Body.
Good morning, Council, Reeve and Council. Debbie Wakelam, Member at Large for Wheatland County, Wheatland Housing Management Board. Happy Seniors Week. This week, June 2nd to June 8th, is Seniors Week. It has been recognized since 1986 to celebrate and recognize the contributions seniors make to enhance the quality of life in Alberta. One of the activities that seniors have done for many years, and they knew the importance of doing this, was the power of sunlight. Laundry was hung up outside in the sunshine. Natural drying meant the sunlight's UV rays killed bacteria and dust mites and even helped bleach out and stains out of clothes. Clothing lasts longer. Today there is a cost and energy savings and environmental benefit. So let's embrace the power of sunlight today, as sunshine is the best disinfectant. Today I would like to give feedback of the past 7 months on my role as a county representative on the Wheatland Housing Management Board. Not having been aware or involved in the politics between the town of Strathmore, the Wheatland County, and Wheatland Housing, I found it shocking to be at the center of mistrust, unfair prejudice, and bullying, intimidating attitude displayed towards myself, along with the accusations of deceitful intent and implications of unethical actions. Almost all my presence almost like my presence was part of some nefarious plot on the board, against the board. I have since come to realize the answer. It came from asking this 3-letter word, WHY. At my orientation, I had been warned by the CAO. In fact, I was told twice, you will do okay if you don't ask the board any questions. So, you will do okay if you don't ask questions. New board members especially need relevant information to succeed. They should be encouraged to ask questions in a safe atmosphere and receive answers without criticism and belittling for asking. This was not happening when I attempted to ask my questions. My motives were always questioned. In the darkness of closed sessions and in the committee meetings, decisions are made ahead of time. I would do well if I nodded, blindly trusted, and agreed. The old guard all knew what was happening, but I was from the county, and I was automatically deemed untrustworthy, so I was left out in the cold. Still, enthusiastically determined and with a zealous desire to do a good job, I asked for more information so I could make informed decisions. At the first board meeting, and the reason is because I have to come report to you guys. At the first board meeting, I felt I had not recorded my notes well enough. I was worried about this, again, as I have to come here and report. So I asked the CAO if I could come in and listen to the recorded meeting again. This was allowed as per the Board of Directors policy, number 25, privacy of Zoom and recorded board meetings. Yet by the end of the emails, my request was denied by the board. At the March 20th meeting, resolution number 45-080308, policy number 25, the privacy of Zoom and recorded board meetings, was reviewed and corrections were made. It no longer showed that recorded and board meetings are for the use of board members. The policy is now for personnel use only, and afterwards the recordings will be destroyed. I was not given an official answer to if the destroying of recorded meetings is allowed, pursuant to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. March 31st, April 2nd, I would like to thank this council for the confirmation and opportunity to attend the Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Association, or ASHA, conference in Edmonton as a representative of the county. There were excellent speakers, lots of networking opportunities to connect with ASHA members, and I even had a good visit with the new ASHA president, James Nyborg. ASHA is celebrating 60 years as the hub or center point for seniors housing. ASHA, are a great source for information. They have connections to the government and are a strong advocate for seniors housing. Board members can access the member resources and board governance resources they provide. One very relevant item from ASHA is this report. Every 2 years, ASHA publishes a report on the current compensation and benefit practices of Alberta seniors and community housing sector. Organizations like the WHMB participate in this survey and receive the final publication. The report is a helpful benchmarking tool and can assist housing boards with budget planning. The previous compensation and benefits report was not presented at a meeting during discussions of the retroactive 7.5% pay increase for the CAO. I felt blindsided and stressed to make a decision without any prior knowledge. I have asked to see this report and my request has been denied. It should be noted that I have been told wages for the out-of-scope staff CAO are confidential and not reported. April 11th and 12th was our strategic planning. This was my first time, again, to attend a planning session, and I was very interested in the process and eager to see how the company hired by the board, Transitional Solutions, Inc., would approach the challenges facing the board such as if they're not awarded the Affordable Housing Partnership Program grant for a new building, a new lodge, what would we do for the future? During this session, it was shocking to hear open discussion and discussion of items referenced from previous special meetings and closed session meetings in front of the TSI advisor and the 2 new board members. No prior motion had been made by the board to remove these items from closed session, and no attempt was made by the chair or CAO to stop the discussion as they actively participated in it. The references to these confidential matters did not further the strategic planning discussion. At the April 17th meeting, I made a request to see the resolution of the board to release closed session information regarding myself from the December 24th special meeting and the March 25th meeting. The board quickly moved from the sunlight to enter closed session. In closing, the TSI told the board a priority was to hire a communication expert to deal with external relationships. This has been completed. Resolution number 45-0401 directed the CAO to hire a communication personnel to contract within existing budget, and this has been done. One final statement was made by the TSI advisor, Mr. Legore, who, although well known to many board members, was not known to myself. He made reference to an email that I had sent directly to the CAO and CC'd the board. As a non-board member, it was unprofessional and out of his authority to make comments on such a matter. References were made in regard to my request to review policy number 24, the board and committee meetings procedure, specifically the timely distribution of meeting agendas. In the past, the CAO stated she usually waited until after this Wheatland County meeting held on Tuesdays so they could add new items to the Wheatland Housing Management Board agenda for the meeting on Thursday night. The board is proud to be autonomous, and it is separate from the Wheatland County. Therefore, they should reflect a proactive attitude rather than be reactive to perceived external threats. At the April 17th regular meeting, Resolution 45-0405, a motion for distribution of the agenda 4 days prior to the board meeting was approved. On April 25th, I have received an email in response to emails and letters that I have sent regarding my concerns and complaints to the Housing Division of the Government of Alberta. Phil Henke, the Director, Housing Management Body Operations, Housing Division, Government of Alberta, replied, "We will be discussing your concerns with the board." New board members have a responsibility to learn the policies and procedures. This takes time. It is discouraging to see the conduct and disregard of policies that a board should be upholding and no one being held accountable. Prior to my letter of complaint to the government, I met with the chair on January 6th to discuss these concerns. February 11th, I informed the chair that I had written a letter addressing board culture and proposed solutions. This letter was presented to the board at the February 20th regular meeting. Coming out of closed session, no motion for action was taken, and on February 24th, I contacted the government again and forwarded my written letter of complaint regarding the Wheatland Housing Management Board. May 15th, attendance at this regular meeting was unfortunately by speakerphone due to the host not accepting my attempts to connect with the Zoom meeting link provided. This made it difficult to participate fully with the board meeting. In the chair's report, he said he had a phone call from Valerie Puddick, Housing Advisor for Seniors Housing and Community, Government of Alberta, in regard to a letter he had received. Further discussion was held in closed session. The Personnel Committee have met with and interviewed only one internal CAO applicant. The committee presented their comments and recommendations to the board in closed session. The Wheatland Housing Board is an autonomous board, and it is required to adhere to the Housing Act, Alberta Housing Act, and its regulations, which include formal decisions and directives issued by the Minister of Seniors and Housing through a ministerial order. In closing, I realize people do not hang their laundry outside very much anymore, not like most of our seniors did. It requires effort. It requires additional time of us. For some, it would be uncomfortable for others to see what our laundry is, what we're hanging outside. Yet this unpopular, old-fashioned, and simple act of hanging up laundry in the sunshine is in fact the best disinfectant. The exposure is good for us when we are open to public scrutiny. Transparency and accountability for all board actions must be seen in the sunlight, which is not a bad thing. My role on the board is to continue asking questions to help the board to succeed in meeting their objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wakelam. Any questions or discussion regarding the report?
I would just like to thank you very much for that report. What you spoke about was a lot of what I also experienced on the board. I think when I was on that board for the 3 years that I was also met with distrust, having to do with coming from the county, I think. I don't know why that is, because like you, I think I was also just trying to get information and just trying to get the board to use good governance in the way they manage their business. So I appreciate the effort that you are putting forward. I know it's difficult. And I commend you continuing on. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
Thank you for your honesty. I know it's not easy. I know I myself sat on the board for a brief period of time and experienced similar things. It was almost like I was up against a wall before I even stepped in the room. There's other council members here that have been in the same situation, and it circles basically around one project. As to date, I've heard people say that our motions are withholding the project going forward, and it's not. Our motion is exactly the same as the town of Strathmore's. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and it has continued and it's festered. And at the end of the day, the project is as far as it can go right now until there's provincial funding, in my opinion. But again, thank you for your diligence, and it is I'm glad you take your appointment seriously. I was hoping that a member of the public would be neutral going into that situation and not be, and with your experience, I thought you were a great candidate. You've done this before on your own, so you understand it very well and in depth. So thanks again.
Any other questions or discussion?
I did some of the stuff that I was disappointed in joining on with WHMB too, and came across some unfavorable when I asked questions too, so I understand. I'm wondering if going forward, I mean, there's certain things that I would still like to know, right? And I think some of it is like what is the waiting list like? Like maybe we could put a and we can do this in a letter for easier for you to get maybe information that we want, so it's easier for you to go to the meetings and get some of that. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions that. Just like a point form, this is what I have to report on, and it's about the seniors, right? And it's our care for the seniors. So we want to make sure. My thing is, the turnaround, maybe on someone wanting to come in. I just hear through residents that my dad got in 3-4 weeks, or, if it's longer, maybe it's something that we're concerned about, reporting on the building, if something happened with the building, if there was any concerns arising that month, maybe a list of questions that we could put together as a council and that you can fill and ask, and this is your responsibility, and they would know this, like transparency, this is what we want. I don't know, I'm just thinking of a solution to help you at the meetings better get information and stuff that pertains to our concerns. Yeah, just a thought. Thanks.
Any other questions or discussion regarding the report? Councillor Lawerson.
I took a couple of notes while you were writing. I'll follow up on some of those because I don't think they're true. I have a couple of questions. I'll get to them at the end. But the facilitator that was there was certainly operating well within the boundaries of what he had been tasked to do. This communications expert you're complaining about, the board granted the CAO the decision to hire that person as staff, as the CAO does with any staff, as the CAO of this county would do. We don't give input into whether the CAO should hire anyone. Yeah, well, but that person's not hired yet anyway. Your complaint about the Zoom, you made it sound like people, that they wouldn't let you in, the Zoom wasn't working that night. And the CAO appointment, that is a board matter, and you have no right to bring that up. So my questions for you are, who paid for your attendance at the ASHA convention because the board decided not to send you? And why were you wearing a Wheatland Housing Management tag?
The county approved my attendance at the conference, and I was not wearing a Wheatland Housing Management Board tag.
I have witnesses that saw that. So the county paid for your attendance to ASHA after you were told by the Wheatland Housing Management Board that you were not to attend.
We have a council motion that authorized our member at large's attendance at the conference, which is quite consistent with other councillors attending conferences that are relevant and that will help equip them to serve on boards and committees.
That's fine. When she was asked at the Wheatland Housing Management Body Board, she refused to answer that question. And there's a bunch of things that you said about your letters, and I can't talk about them because they were in closed session, but the response to your letter was very clear, and it's not the way you're putting it out.
Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Custer.
I guess just to follow up on Rick's concerns on the conference. I don't know what tag you were wearing. I never seen it, never spoke to you. Only thing is, I'm wondering who paid for the conference fee.
The county.
The county paid for the conference fee?
Yes, correct. And the tag could be confirmed by ASHA, what was on it, because they made up a new one for me.
We're in a public meeting and somebody paid for your attendance at the conference.
We're going to turn it over to CAO Henderson.
So just a point of clarification from administration. So there was a council resolution to pay for the per diems to the conference. The actual registration for the conference, the county did not pay for. And so we paid for the mileage and per diems to the actual conference, but not the conference registration. Thank you.
May I just ask what the concern is with having Wheatland Housing Management Body on Member Wakelam's tag? She is a Wheatland Housing Management Body board member. She had Wheatland County Council approval to attend as our member at large. I don't understand the contention around if ASHA put Wheatland Housing Management Body Board on her name tag, or I don't understand that concern. Can you clarify that?
I still have a prior question. Who paid for the conference?
It sounds like there's uncertainty. Perhaps ASHA provided the registration complimentary. It doesn't sound like the county made that expenditure. If there's a requirement to, council could revisit that, but there was certainly majority support from this council for our member at large to attend a conference that could help equip her to best serve on this board. I can't speak to the board's decision to change their support. It sounds like it's some short last-minute decision prior to the conference, but this council certainly provided a motion supporting that, just as we have for other Wheatland Housing Management Body board members and for other boards and committees to attend conferences that help educate and equip our representatives to serve. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I think it was the last time that Ms. Wakelam was here. She did a passionate report and talked about going to ASHA, and I believe it was Councillor Eichert that made the motion, and it passed. I'm not sure who was in attendance that day. It's on the record somewhere. From my recollections, I remember when we got back here originally, going back 7 years ago, when there was different members that went to ASHA, I remembered conversations that, well, sometimes the county pays for us, sometimes it didn't matter how many people went before. I didn't believe it was ever a decision of the board. It's a conference available to all. That's just from my recollection, so I had no problem supporting that motion. Yeah, so.
Council has approved per diem and mileage and the room for the boards, conferences, granted. Registration usually paid for by the organization. In this instance, there was a deal, 5 registrations for a certain amount. Board said, we'll take that deal and send 5 people up. 6 wanted to go, only 5 went. All I'm asking is who paid the registration. I've heard it wasn't the county, and I've heard the Reeves speak about it, but I know somebody must know, because they were standing there getting the registration, who paid for it, or nobody. I would like to know. It's a matter of credibility for our board and for this county. Did we just go to the conference without paying? That's what I want to know.
So you're the chair of the board. Can you not reach out to ASHA and ask them that question? It's a phone call. Solves all the doubt in there. We know that the county didn't pay. We know that Wheatland Housing didn't pay. Make a phone call. That's centered. My second question is regarding this communication specialist. I did a quick search on Grok. I love AI. There are 2 management boards in Canada or in Alberta that has a communication specialist. One is for Calgary, one is for Edmonton. Both these units operations have in excess of 10,000 units that they're responsible for. What is the purpose of wasting this kind of money on a communication specialist? That should be the job of a CAO.
It is the job of this. First, to answer your question, I did phone ASHA. I'm still asking the question, who paid for it? And secondly, it was a board decision. We are always public's always asking for information, and we need help with our website. We need help getting information out there, and that's what the board has decided to do. And nobody has been hired yet. It is not a governance, it's an operations thing. The CAO has been charged to find some. We have 3 out-of-scope staff. And they are worked. So I'm not going to get an answer of who paid for the registration.
I did not.
but I'm guessing nobody did. So there's probably an outstanding bill at ASHA for registration.
I'll move that Wheatland County Administration reach out to ASHA to inquire if there is an outstanding invoice regarding our member-at-large's attendance at the ASHA conference, and if so, to pay the invoice. Any questions or discussion on the motion?
I agree with it. Since we did make the motion to pay for her per diem and mileage, it only makes sense if it's an outstanding invoice that Wheatland Housing Management Body isn't prepared to pay for, then it's on us. I fully support the motion.
Any other yeah.
I have no problem supporting the motion, but I believe Councillor Kester said that they got a deal on 5, 6, and only five attended. So did you have a person that didn't go? So I'm totally confused, but I have no problem paying this. Because I believe the motion covered that. I mean, we've made motions for myself to go to conferences many times, and it's all paid for, part of it. There was no intention to not cover the expenses, I believe, from the motion. It's pretty much the standard one we've always done, so if it got missed, it got missed. Is there, I guess, a question to administration, is there an outstanding invoice somewhere that we don't know about?
Through the chair, I have not heard of one, haven't received any correspondence on this.
Does
the county never paid an invoice for this, so yeah, it's
But we can look into it. And
does the WHMB have an outstanding invoice for this? No. Okay, then we'll find out.
yeah. To me, this is a critical educational opportunity for our member at large, and it's very much consistent with what we've done for other boards and committees. There are times where an association or an outside organization will pay a registration fee or some of the expenses for attendance at a conference or an educational opportunity. But there's also been times where council has covered those costs for, typically it's councillors, but obviously in this case, we have a member at large who has taken on the responsibility to be one of the representatives to the Wheatland Housing Management Body on our behalf. And I think it's critical that we support that both educational opportunity, the networking opportunities that are provided there, and the all the opportunities that come with attendances at that conference. I've heard very good things about the ASHA conference. Any other questions or discussion regarding the report? I will just say, as you've heard from many of my, we'll go to the motion in 1 second. As you've heard from many of my colleagues, several of us have experienced very similar behaviors and a lack of respect for diverse perspectives on the Wheatland Housing Management Body Board. I strongly believe that good governance really hinges on the courage to ask good questions and on that respect for diverse perspectives. And it is disappointing to hear that that continues. It really can erode public trust and accountability and transparency within an organization when questions are met with that type of brute resistance. As somebody already indicated, thank you for your persistence and for your service and commitment on that board. I know how challenging it can be. I myself have been shouted at and had threats, and very similar experience, and it's extremely unfortunate. It's not an isolated experience, and certainly a serious and ongoing governance challenge that we see not just with Wheatland Housing Management Body, but with some other boards, with some of the same board members. So I regret that you are experiencing that as our member at large, but I do thank you for your service. Yes, Councillor Kester.
I'm going to refrain from answering any of that till after the next board meeting. I'm sure there'll be a response from the board. Some of what was mentioned was in camera, and there'll be a debate about it, I'm sure. but there'd be a response, and most likely a public response.
Yeah, I fully expect there will be a code of conduct complaint against our member at large. That is a tool that, as we saw today with the province repealing it for councillors, has been weaponized historically by some councils in Alberta, and I think I could anticipate it could be weaponized by our housing board as well, but we will await your response. Any other questions or discussion? I will call the question on my motion regarding the payment for the conference. That motion is carried. Motion to accept Member Wakelam's WHMB report.
Before I make the motion, just wanted to ask, if something popped into my mind. Some of the councillor members that have left, there was exit interviews, correct? You were asked to address, so the board has seen this several times from several different ways. Okay, that's all I need to know. I'll make motion to accept this as information.
Any questions or discussion on the motion or any final discussion on the report? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Great afternoon. We will move to agenda item 7.1. My report is included in the agenda package starting on page 154. I'll speak to a couple of things. On May 12th, we had an update meeting with the Regional Hydrogen Opportunity, and essentially they just spoke to the hiring of the project lead and the work to date. There will be a kind of a launch of the project next week. And there's already been significant engagement that has been happening regarding hydrogen. I may just ask if they could provide maybe an update through administration on the project itself, maybe perhaps quarterly to council or something, just so that council is up to date on the progress of that project as it advances. They have a really strong team in place, and I think through that comprehensive engagement are getting some good direction on where we can focus this opportunity. On May 13th, we were happy to accept an invitation from Trustee Harry Somm with Christ the Redeemer Schools to tour the 2 Catholic schools in Strathmore, as well as the New Catholic Church. It was a really informative tour with the superintendent and the principals of both schools, providing us a tour, but also really comprehensive information about the results of their education system and the student experiences, and some really touching stories about how they support families and that type of thing as well. So I want to thank them for that opportunity. Just a reminder, Community Futures has that second quadrant nominations open for the heart of our community, which does include a section of our county. So if people want to make nominations for businesses, that would be great. I know it was really meaningful to Joker Bicycle to be honored by that Quadrant 1 recognition. He does just absolutely phenomenal work in our community, and I know he makes a difference in so many people's lives with the work that he does. So please consider further nominations. We did some further work on the strategic planning work that we did with the Alberta Community Development Unit, reviewing the outcomes of our strategic planning session, where we looked at the key themes for Community Futures. We conducted a SWOT analysis discussion on the current vision and mission, short, mid, and long-term goals, future direction for the organization, a review of our purpose, the pillars of the organization, and strategic priorities, and what we will be required to do for next steps to finalize that strategic plan and then to execute it over the next 3 years. There is a new, just so everybody's aware, Community Futures receives a significant amount of our operational funding from the federal government. That's always been done on an allocation basis historically, and now we'll be required to submit an application for those funds. It's not clear yet exactly how that will happen or what the process will look like, but I'll keep council updated on that as we learn more. There's also a great opportunity around business succession planning that Community Futures is partnering in, and there's some information in my report there. We know that there's going to be a substantial shift in ownership of businesses, and that can have a huge impact in rural Alberta because if an owner of a business wishes to retire and there isn't a succession plan in place, that can leave a huge gap in the community with the closure of that business. So this is work that is being undertaken to help facilitate that process of succession planning for business owners. And I think really valuable for the viability and kind of continuity of our rural communities. The consultation is free. There are fees for some of the services if you opt to engage on those, but all the information is on the website, and there is that complimentary consultation that can just help you understand or help business owners in Wheatland County understand the opportunities that are available through that. I also did share that I will not be seeking re-election in the upcoming election, so just wanted to thank all of you for the work that we've done together. With that, I will move to accept my report as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.2.
My report's on page 158 of the package. Drumheller District Solid Waste. We got the 2023 audit done. We're now working on 2024. We just had a bunch of problems and changes. One was with the auditor cost. Originally was skyrocketing, so we had to find a new auditor, and we're using the same one that the county's using right now, and it's gotten excellent. And streamlining process to make it better, so we're jumping right into the next one. The Catholic School Church and School tour was excellent. It was really eye-opening to see how much they are involved in the community and the level of education that they offer. And as usual, I attend the Lakes of Muirfield HOA meeting. That is a non-charge just for everybody. I don't charge for it at all. It's just something that I do. I feel it's a good connection to find out what's coming our way and be able to update council. If there's any questions, if not, motion to accept my report as presented.
Any questions for Deputy Reeve Clausen? I'll call the question. Motion is carried.
Just one more thing. You mentioned about not being seeking re-election. I feel remiss not to say it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I will continue to till the end of your term.
Thank you.
Hope you have all the. It's hard to say the right thing, but I just have to say something. But
we don't need to say it yet. Yeah. I am fully committed to serving with everything I have till the end of this term. So we'll save our goodbyes till then.
Yeah.
Let's move to. That motion was carried. Let's move to agenda, but thank you. We'll move to agenda item 7.3.
My report is on the server on page 159. Not too much to add. I did forget actually to put that I also attended the Catholic School and Church tour, so thank you to Trustee Harry Sam for that. And I just want to give a shout out to community volunteers who received their CURB funding. They do great things in the community, and we value their contributions. And I also attended the Wheatland Crossing School graduation ceremony, and so congratulations to all those grads. That's all I wanted to report on this time, so I'll move my report as presented. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions? I want to thank the councillors and Deputy Reeve Clausen that were able to attend the graduation ceremony. I was unfortunately not available that evening. I would echo Councillor Laprise's comments. I think May has to be one of our favorite months, getting to present the curb checks and the community facilities grant. We have some incredible, and Councillor Kester spoke to it earlier about our firefighters, some incredible volunteers that serve our community through all of these organizations, and I love that we can take some somewhat modest taxpayer investments into those organizations and to see the way that they leverage those to provide just such incredible opportunities throughout the county. I also wanted to thank Councillor Laprise for speaking on behalf of Council at the Wheatland County Welcome Back Barbecue for our team. I unfortunately wasn't in our May board meeting, and unfortunately Deputy Reeve Clausen had a family emergency and was unable to attend, so thank you for speaking on behalf of Council.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. It's great to be there.
Thank you. If there's no other questions or discussion, I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.4.
Unfortunately, I didn't get my report in on time, so it's the old-fashioned way on paper in front of you. I think everything is covered. The Catholic school tour was like a memory lane, and very informative. And it was great to hear how well that school is operating. I attended on the 31st the Strathmore Air Cadets 25th anniversary. It was held in Carsland. What a great program for kids, and had the pleasure of handing out an award. They had many awards, too many to mention, but it was a great afternoon and evening. I wanted to bring up Jacko. The award was, he was very proud about it, but he does so much for kids in our area for free that it was well deserved. He belongs to he's involved in the trails, the bike and walk path that we're trying to plan, and I'm sure he'll be involved in the kids if when that goes forward. I don't know what you call it, but they have the park, yeah, in Carsland. Talking about the trails to the Bow, Wheatland Trails to the Bow, they've put the application in for 2 different grants, so we're waiting for a reply on those, but they're both in now. I missed the Carsland, I missed the Speargrass AGM, so I want to thank Dave Rhymes for filling in for me there, and apparently he answered all their questions, and I want to thank him for that. There's been some changes in business ownerships in Carsland, which is really good to see. Both the Carsland grocery store has new ownership and the Carsland liquor store has new ownership, and there was no downtime. So business is going good in the town. And with that, I'll move my report as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.5.
Yeah, my report is on the server. Just want to make a correction. I put down Towards Sacred Heart and not Christ the Redeemer. I apologize. I flashed back there, I think.
The elementary school is called Safer.
Well, there, I guess I didn't need to take that back. But anyways, yeah, I think everything's been pretty well covered by everybody before me. So if there's any questions of what I did in May, I'll glad to take the questions. If not, I'll move my report as presented.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll call the question. And that motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.6. Microphone, please.
As usual. My report's on the server. And I'd just like to mention to council that if you're interested in the minutes from WHMB, they are on websites at the Housing Board, as long as the audited financial statements. And if there's no questions, I'll move my report.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions? I'll just send a thank you to the WHMB as well for providing the financial statements to council this year, as well as the annual report. Thank you. If there's, yeah, please go ahead.
Very proud of our annual report. It's the first one. It was a recommendation from a previous engagement we had. And yeah, that's, how would you say that? Volume 1, number 1, or whatever. It's the first one anyway.
If there's no other questions, I will call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 7.7.
My report's on the server. Everything's been talking about. I'm only on one committee anyway, so I'll just move my report.
Any questions? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.1.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 164 of your agenda package is the CAO monthly report for May 2025. As always, the Council Resolution Tracker starts on page 166. Anything in yellow is deemed ongoing. Anything in green is deemed complete. Also, just a notification for Council, the Bill 50. So Administration will be providing all of Council when the CAO exercises his natural person powers twice a week, so within 72 hours. So council will receive kind of a blanket email every Tuesdays and Fridays of the week. So that should cover that time frame. We're still working on the reporting. I did send a backdated list of items that I did, and that's just trying to get this process in place. And also just a notification for council as well, I'm going to be absent from the next council meeting. If there's any question about my report, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the report? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the May 2025 Chief Administrative Officer report as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried.
I'll move that council accepts the June 3rd, 2025 Council Resolution Tracker as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.21.
Good morning, Council. Corey from Administration, here to present the Corporate and Financial Services Report for May 2025, found on page 174 of the Council package. I don't have too much to add, except I do want to mention that our digital transformation project is making very good progress, and it's due to release this weekend. So it'll be a 4-day outage. Forms that, like fire permit forms and tax certificate forms and things, those will be down for over the 4 days. But we're really excited and looking forward to the end of this part of the project, and they will be in the cloud, so we won't have have to worry about infrastructure on our site anymore. And going forward, everything that's going to be done will be on our new cloud platform. And so hopefully we'll start to see all the new forms that the teams have been working on since. The only other thing I have to update on is our asset management plan. So Harry just gave me the information that we've got our final draft back from the asset management plan, the full one. So we're hoping to present that to council soon. And that concludes my report. Staff are available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
What happened when the cloud blows away?
I had a joke, but I'm not going to say it.
I believe we have redundancies built into our data management. Any other questions or discussion? I wanted to thank you for including the information on per capita water usage, recognizing there's some limitations in our ways that we can analyze that data, but thank you. And also thank you for the updates on the asset management. It's probably most people don't find this that exciting, but it's one of the things I'm most proud of, that it's a serious undertaking. I know how much work has gone into it, but very grateful for all of the work that's gone into that, and I know it will be integrated into future capital management, so thank you, or capital budgeting. If there's no other questions, I will call the question. Oh, if somebody would like to make the motion. Thank you. Teamwork. Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Now I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to 8.22.
Morning, Joel again for Financial Services, here to present the utility financial update, fee and cost structure report. So there's quite a bit of financial detail in here, and I'll just try and touch on a little bit.
Don't smile when you say that. Quite a bit of
and I'll just kind of touch on just little bits of it. A big part of this is just an update from financial reporting methodology that's been provided the last couple of years. And so we've updated on that basis, just with now the 2024 audit being completed and having the full final figures for that. And then in addition, we took the opportunity to include some more information and some other recent requests in the report as well. Sorry, I'll just scroll up a little bit here. So this attachment, and I'll zoom in a little bit.
That's much better, thank you.
This is one that may look familiar. It's been provided the last couple of years, and so we've just refreshed this with the 2024 actuals, and now with the final 2025 budget available as well. And so the approach that we've taken, as in prior years here, is to essentially take the total revenues less the expenses that provides the net operating results, excluding amortization, for each community, as well as just overall on the consolidated basis. And then essentially what that shows is kind of the subsidy levels for each community, or as overall for the utility function. And then we, in that second table section, we include the number of utility accounts for each community, and we do the math on that, and we provide the utility subsidy or contribution per account by community. So with the full cost recovery column at the very far right there, what we've done with that is just to take the same assumed approach as in prior years of what it would look like if, as an overall function, there would be no subsidy for the entire consolidated utility approach. And the assumptions on that would be increased utility a percentage increase for all the user type and fees on the exact same basis. And so there's some assumptions there that we listed out in the report itself. Of course, this is just more of just to give a picture of what that could look like. And then what we do in the schedule before this is to show what those, on that basis, what those fees would, on the far right there, what those fees would be required if we were to reach that level of no subsidy or fully funded from utility fees. We've also included the 2025 rates in this table as well as an update, just for reference. And just for council's update, if you'll recall, those were approved effective January, and those are in place now. We had also noted in the report, and this is a good aside for that. I'll zoom out again. We included just kind of a rate review section in here as well, just to provide some opportunity for various potential reference points for what council may or may not choose to in the future to direct increases in rates. So whether it's MPI or CPI, and or holding off until asset management details are more fleshed out at that time. So we just thought it would be useful to provide this information as well. So then going back to the report content, what we had provided, I believe last year for this, was the water revenue on a per cubic meter basis. And so that's that calculation has been updated for 2024. And then we've enhanced it in this report by also doing the same calculation for wastewater, which is that section below, and then consolidating them together to show for a per cubic meter basis in 2024, what would be the total per cubic meter revenue for each community there. So there was also some other questions around taking that approach on the cost basis. And so we've added that into this report as well. This area is just kind of a summarization. There was also 2 additional schedules that were created for water and wastewater separately that showed the total cost divided by the cubic volume that was billed in that given year. And so this kind of rolls all of that up, provides an opportunity to see the consolidated cost per cubic meter. And then just having that right after the revenue section, it's kind of a good spot so you can look at the cost per cubic meter versus the revenue per cubic meter. And in addition to that, we've also provided some context to high level, just looking at the budget, the proportion that's consumption based or variable costs that might just be the cost of direct water versus fixed costs, things that don't change regardless of how much water is used, for example, like salaries or insurance costs, those kind of things. So a couple more sections we added. We did some estimation on the contractor operating review here, just to essentially look at what the internal cost was back in, I believe this was in 23 or 2024, and doing some estimates on what that would look like if we had staffing internally to provide the servicing versus an estimate of the RVUC contract as well. And again, that's as at the time of this, we didn't have a full 12 months under it, so we did some estimates and kind of did some calculations behind that with some of the information in the point form here. And finally, we also provided some policy background, some kind of information on what's been done to date. And this is more related to the second resolution that's part of the package as well, of just some high-level information of what could be done in a policy or procedure around different various rates and policies on how to approach that. I believe that concludes my presentation. Staff are available for any questions.
Wonderful, thank you. Any questions regarding the report? Councillor Kester.
Yeah, Joel, earlier on in your presentation, there was a chart there. I didn't see it in the package.
They're all included in the package. He's going through the package as he's displaying the charts.
This one here.
It's on page 190.
What page?
190. Any other questions?
It's a different section. Could you, in there, it has Rosebud, $77,000 2023 actual. 24 amount was 103, and the budget was 83, and the 25 budget's $250,000. What does that mean? Like, why is there such a discrepancy there all of a sudden on those charts? It's not only just Rosebud, it's the rest of them too.
So through the chair, we can certainly look into pulling the details on the budget perspective on those. Oftentimes, what happens in the utility areas is there might be budget values for contract services or such for projects that maybe aren't quite at that capital threshold, so they're not planned for in a capital regard, like on their capital budget. And so they're part of the operating budget, even though they might be kind of a one-time or over a couple of years project. So they're not necessarily part of the ongoing operations. And our manager of technical services is available for any other supplemental information too.
One comment just through the chair that I could think of, just off the top of my head, and I'm not sure if this is happening in 2025, but there was wells that were needed to be capped in Rosebud, and they just never were, and I think we're taking care of that potentially this year. Is that correct? So that cost that's not a capital cost, it would just be an operating cost because we don't retain an asset, we're kind of just decommissioning one. So that could be it, but that would be a prime example of why the numbers could just kind of jump up and come back down. It would be related to the utilities in Rosebud, but if that's not happening in 2025, that would be a prime example of why a number may jump up very briefly and just kind of normalize after a few years.
Okay. So what you're getting at, that's not going to be a huge rate increase for, it's just part of the way we do books.
Yeah, so through the chair, that technically is correct. The council does set the rates by bylaw, and council has been consistently applying the same utility rate through all hamlets. I think this is just an exercise of showing the actual cost that we do attribute to each individual hamlet.
Okay, thanks. And on page 183, we have WRC water rate of $6.13 in 2024. I'm thinking there's probably an updated one for 2025. That's not really my question. My question is, do we have a rate on how much it's costing to produce water at Speargrass and Muirfield?
Yes, that's included in the report.
So, sorry, through the chair, I will just go through to sorry, I didn't walk through the schedules just because there was,
Page 184.
but so this was one of the new schedules that we had included in the package this time. So, and we segregated the water utility separate from the wastewater as well, so that you could view from the water perspective on the different communities. We take the full cost in that budget, or the full actuals, in this case the 2024 actuals, and you can see how we divide it by that water that was provided or billed in that year, and that gives us on the bottom table the cost per cubic meter.
So that's not really what I wanted. You've got there, I'll take Rosebud, $19.99 per cubic meter. I'm thinking that's what that is, cost, calculated cost per cubic meter. Is that water cost? But the actual charge to the county from where we buy the water from is $6.14. That's the number I want to know. So from the other contractors we have operating in the county, what is that charge before we add everything else on? What is their basic charge? Because they produce water and they service the distribution lines. No different than WRC. They produce water and they service distribution lines in a couple villages. And they have different costs for that. I would like to see the cost broke out from our contractors, the cost per cubic meter produced at the plant, and then it hands off to the distribution, then the charge for the distribution side up. Is that possible? So that way we can look at and compare it to something we got on the other side, and we know this is this and this is that, and it's apples to apples. I don't know, it's great, but I don't know all the charges that went in there, right? And if you can just break it down to the simple thing, on that one page it's advertised $6.17, I believe it was, for cubic meter. We should be able to compare that to what it's costing the county for the same thing from a different contractor. And I noticed in the audit in our budget coming up, we have a huge increase in contracted services, and I don't see any answer to what that increase is. There was mention in this report that they have to do extra man hours at the plant because they don't have stata to monitor it, and they have to replace it or fix it. That's operational, and I don't want to get into that. But when there's a huge spike in contracted services and I have nothing to compare it to, that I think is into governance issues. And those are the answers I wanted more than anything. It's relevant to me. I got something to compare it to. And if that $300,000 increase is because of the extra man hours? Is it because the plant needs a new piece to get on status so it don't have to have the man hours? I'd like to know, because maybe if it's gonna cost us $300,000 a year, maybe we spend some capital money and get it fixed. Or new one, or so we can, those are questions I'd like to see. Does that make sense? Kind of rambled on there, but not an accountant. I can't hone in.
Yeah, so through the chair, I do follow you. So in terms of this perspective, it is really the total budget for that community. And in terms of, we can go back to with the manager of technical services and see if we can pull out those more direct costs and see what's available.
Just through the chair, one thing that I'm just trying to understand so we can answer the question correctly is, are you looking, because we've referenced the financial statement contracted services line. Are you looking for a difference? I'm just trying to understand, is it just utilities or is it all contracted services? Because I feel like
Had all on it, I think.
all, okay, so whatever the number was, I can't remember how much it was, 14 million or something, or 12, or it is in the financial statement, but that one big line, okay.
A big difference, a huge
Okay.
difference.
So from 2023 to 2024,
Yeah, what did we contract that made such a difference? I don't know if it was water or if it was. Yeah, whatever that was.
Okay.
I'm guessing it was water because there was another one on water services too that had a huge increase on it.
yeah, and just,
I'll
sorry.
let you answer it.
So just through the chair, what we can do is we can bring a report back to kind of just show the differences, just so it's in writing, it's clear to everyone exactly what we did. And then if council just wants to make a motion for that, just so we have direction to do it and bring it back, and then we'll mark the resolution off as complete when it's done.
I'll make that motion.
Can you state the motion just so administration is clear?
I thought Brian just said it.
Perhaps just a comparison between total contracted services in 2024 to 2023 and increase, or an explanation of the increase amount.
2024 and 2025 maybe? Because I thought it was a budget number.
So the one, and this is great that we're kind of getting to the bottom of it, because on the audited financial statement, there wouldn't be a 2025 budgeted number. We can go into the budget and find out the the number for 2025. I just don't know that one off the top of my head.
Let's go 2023, 4, and 5.
The 2023, 2024 audited financials, actuals.
Actual versus the
25
2025 budget? Okay, that's simple enough, and we can pull that data.
I can just look it up quick. Got it here.
Any other questions or discussion on this motion? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Thanks. A lot of information here, but I've always, going back to when I first got on council, we kind of figured out, well, how do we come up with that number for a rate? And then when it got onto WRC and you realize you have to actually run it like a business, you have to accommodate your losses. There's no place to hide anything. It's all, you generate a number, your fee is what you can sell the service for versus your client. So that's how we come up with the per, it's a great tool to work with for councils going ahead. There's a lot of information. If we could condense this and simplify it a little bit and assume some things would be great, because there's so much that goes into it. But I think that you don't know where to go if you don't know where you are. And this definitely tells us where we are and how, if council so chooses to make it cost recovery, how to get there, I think is more the focus now, irregardless of who contracts out what, where, when, why, how. You know your costs. And those costs, I can tell you, are not going to go down. They're going to go up. The infrastructure is getting older. Labor is getting more expensive. Parts are getting more expensive. And you got the regulatory body that oversees it, and they ask for more and more all the time because it's water, wastewater. So that's the health of human beings. So I'll make the motion that council accepts the utility financial update.
Oh, we just have a motion currently on the floor, but we'll go there next. So there's a motion on the screens for us. Any further questions or discussion? Councillor Larson.
Is that motion the one where we should put in the rate difference as well? Or would that be something separate, or maybe it doesn't need a motion? Where Councillor Kester was talking about the rate from, I think it was WRC versus, I don't know who we get it from the other places.
So that wouldn't be the RVUC, but I think that we should have two separate motions, just because I feel like they're kind of getting mixed together, and we just want to like separate them out so we can just make sure we're answering each question separately. And the other one, I just would have to get clarity from Councillor Kester on the rate for the other one.
Yeah, just on budget 20 page of the annual statement, not numbered. Consolidated statement of operations. It's got a budget of $2,530,000, and 24 was $2,004,100,000, and 2023 was $2,100,000 change thousand. So we're $500,000 almost increase there. I know one's budget, one's final.
Administration will review, and the motion indicates bring a report back.
To make the motion clarity, yeah, just what's on here, 23, 24, and the budget year.
That's what's indicated in the motion. Any other questions or discussion?
Just a question on the motion, because I remember going through this a few years back with WRC. The problem I have with it is, how would I put it? Councillor Eckert may be able to help me a little bit. When these numbers got highlighted, all of a sudden the contractor or WRC or whoever knows that it's public information, and you're going to set yourself up for a cost increase. Or WRC could just rejig their budget to meet that goal. And there's two things that affect that: cost of water and cost of service. And this being sitting at WRC, the cost of service is a completely separate thing than cost of water. And the board members are there know what I'm talking about. So if this information becomes public, how can you fairly have a contractor?
Councillor Larson.
The WRC information's already public, so I'm not sure what your point is.
I think his point is we saw a shift in the service fee from, I'll estimate, $110 an hour. approximately 105 down to 48 with a shift onto the water costing. And then there's some additional challenges. Obviously, WRC cannot provide cannot provide transmission to multiple communities in Wheatland County. The system was designed just for a very limited service area. And I think there's still some gaps. I would look to current board members around asset management planning and capital replacement and some of those things that are not necessarily integrated into our rates. So there is a risk of some rate shock if there's significant, like if there was a significant failure, for example, within the transmission system that would then need to be absorbed in future rates. And there were multiple considerations in addition to cost, some of which were outlined in the report regarding availability of staff and challenges with just staffing. This is something where there's a supply and demand challenge with skilled operators. So a lot of moving parts. I think it's a good question that you're raising around the competitiveness of this. Yeah, I'm still thinking about that.
Being that I sat on that board and understand, and we have the service provided in a certain area and not others. It's an administrative function. I treat it as their contractor, no less. They can contract a service out in a specific area, or administration could decide to hire somebody, or they can have it staffed within. They've done all these things. It's their function. I don't believe it's a political function to do this, because it became political. And like Reeve-Link said, the labor rate dropped from over $100 down to 40 instantly to keep our work. You just can't do that in the budget, and it was done. And now I believe it's close to that same rate, and it's still breaking even. The water rate did go up. Yes, it did go up, but it should have went up anyway. So there's so many variables to this. It is an administrative function to decide who looks after a contractor.
Just to the chair, I'm kind of laughing. So on May 6th, council passed a resolution, and there's just so many resolutions from month to month. We actually did debate this. I'd have to go back and watch the video, but council does currently have a motion that administration is working on, that council direct administration to provide a detailed comparison of the contracted service budget for 2023 to 2025, including a breakdown of the services and associated costs contributing to the year-over-year changes, with actual costs from 2023 and 2024, and to provide a breakdown of the utility servicing costs, including the water production and distribution by community for the same period. So
perfect. Thank you.
I'm kind of laughing, but it's, yeah, I'm not working on it. I know Joel is. It comes to me eventually, so it.
I definitely felt like this was deja vu, but that's not always unusual. Councillor Kester, would you consider withdrawing your motion, considering we have a very similar motion meeting the same objectives already supported by council that administration is working on?
Kind of have to chuckle too, because I've been asking for this for a long time. And I thought I'm going to have to make a motion to get it, and I guess I did. Or somebody did. I will withdraw my motion, and we'll see if that answers all my questions when it comes, and I won't make any more.
So then council could contemplate, administration has provided 2 recommended motions to accept the report as information. And there's a second one to direct administration to prepare a draft policy establishing utility rate framework for council's consideration at a future meeting. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the utility financial update fee and cost structure report for information. And I just want to say that I actually appreciate the detail that was in this report. I don't think it needs to be simplified or I liked having all the details that are in there. So thank you for that.
Any other questions or discussion? Yeah, I would echo that. The comprehensiveness, I think, is impressive. And it's complex comparisons, because even to the point that CAO Henderson made about some of the maintenance that's required that comes in under operations that could be perceived as more capital maintenance projects. So we are going to see fluctuations, and I think that's one of the reasons that it makes that utility rate framework a little bit more challenging when you're striving for cost recovery. But I am confident in our administration, and when you see this kind of comprehensive information, it makes our job much easier. So thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Kester.
Just to explain myself a little further, I know that motion was there. When I seen this report on the package, I thought this was the answer to that motion. That's why I'm asking for more detail. I don't want people to think I finally fell off my noodle.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. And that motion is carried. Council's wishes regarding the second recommendation.
I move that council direct administrator to prepare a draft policy establishing a utility rate framework for council's consideration at a future meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Ray Plesson. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. And just for council's understanding as well, administration frequently will document the council resolution that a report is addressing, and that is included on page 181, just for tracking resolutions, because I know we would have to wait until the next agenda package to see what's been addressed. We'll move to agenda item 8.31.
Good morning, Council. Sherry Bars with administration to present the May 2025 Community Development Services Update Report. I don't have anything additional other than an update on the AFREC radio system. The request for proposals closed about a week ago, and this successful proponent was Prairie Mobile. So we are going through the next steps to have the kickoff and start implementing the AFREC radio system. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the report? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the May 2025 Community and Development Services Report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to 8.32.
Morning, Joel from Financial Services. Thought you could get rid of me, but not that easily.
Oh, we like you.
Okay, so this is the Financial Services Financial Review. I'll start with the schedule, just because there's a lot of narrative content, and this is a good way to summarize a lot of the information that's in the report itself. I can fit all of this in. So what we did is we took the last 3 years of actuals for 2022 to 2024, and then you can see there we also have the relevant budgets for the last 2 years. And we tried to average those out. We did a couple of things to normalize, so to speak, the operational aspect of the fire services. So a good example of that is taking out any wildfire response costs that the county or any associated halls had incurred within the actuals, and taking those out, and some other items like the STARS contribution, which is budgeted in this division, just because they don't have a direct correlation to the ongoing day-to-day operations. So that was that top table. Those are kind of the adjusted actuals after factoring all of that in. So then from there, we go to the second step here, the common hall costs. And that's everything that would be shared amongst all 8 halls. And so we essentially took that total cost from the top, divided by 8, and that gives us an average common cost per hall. And across the 3 years, that works out to about 82,000. So that's at 81,706. Again, it's taking 3 years is a good, like an average across time is good as well, because much like we just talked about with the utilities area, sometimes you'll have higher costs in 1 year for a given reason. So when you average them across multiple years, it gives you a better perspective on kind of the true day-to-day operating cost for that area. So the second step we did for the association halls is we took that calculated share cost per hall, and then we added on those contributions as per that funding policy that are given every year. And as you can see, that those values also increased based on assessment values, because that's what the policy is based on. So that gave us an approximate average cost for the association halls of $175,000 or $176,000 over that 3-year period. And then finally, for the county halls, we took that common costs that we had there, and then we added all of those unique costs that are only county related, as well as some recovery revenue there to reduce the cost there. And that is how we calculated the average county hall cost. So with that, our average 3-year was about $200,000 per hall for the counties. For reference, we also included the along the same time frame, the consolidated fire capital values, and then a breakdown again between the county-owned halls and the associations of all the different projects or equipment, I should say, that they had during this time frame. I'll go up to the body of the report now. Sorry. So this first part, I won't go through it because this is just a narrative of what we just went through in the table. But we did include this. This is an overall cost of the average of the 3 years for the total. I apologize, the graphs are kind of small in the text there, but we broke down the different categories of the expense types. We segregated the operating payment for the fire associations here just to show it as a separate item. And I believe we also had just noted in the description of that figure that the average was around $1.6 million annually for that. For the capital, we had included the 20-year, the existing fire capital plan that's for all the halls and the associations at this time. So we did include some bullet points in there, just some caveats. So for example, this doesn't include any buildings, it's just the equipment. In addition, some of the equipment costs, I believe it was this fall that they're planning to update some of the costs and some of the values in there, because I believe the costs that were originally forecasted in this were before kind of that COVID inflation time frame. In addition, the blue line, which represents kind of the reserves, that was based on just a conservative view forward on keeping the policy the same. Again, it's the reserve transfers are based at this time on kind of the assessment values overall in the county. We included just a brief funding review or policy review of kind of some of the history around that, as well as some narrative around each section of the policy and what that entails. And then this was just based on our 2025 budget, just kind of to show how the numbers from the funding of that policy 12.0 and how that works out in the budget itself this year. I should just clarify too, this should actually, that last column is just the net reserve impact, because my apologies, it does include county capital, because as you can see, the third column here has the county projects. So that just gives an idea from the far left there, the funding reserves based on the policy, that's the amount that was available from the assessment base and the different policy sections and how much is available in that year. And then the next two sections are just based on the capital and operating budget. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the report? Councillor Custer.
Yeah, that one chart you had back there with the average costs. Page 209. Yeah. So the association halls, Delham, Hazara, Rockford, Rosebud, Standard, we have a shared cost. What is that number? Is that what the county puts into those halls per hall? And then the halls put in another 40%? Is that what it is, or what is?
Yes, so through the chair, sorry to clarify, in terms of this calculation, we're just looking at the operating results. If we looked at the whole division, the fire division, what we did is we pulled out anything that would be, so for example, of the salaries of, say, the fire chief who might be organizing training, that's all the halls participate in regardless of the ownership status, those would be viewed as a common cost. So we've taken kind of all of those common cost categories. We've taken out anything that, such as insurance, which might be just paid for just county halls, and they have nothing to do with associations. So we pulled those costs out, and then that resulting operating figure, we divided it by 8, just recognizing that just generally these costs are kind of shared amongst the entire group. And then what we did from that, on that second calculation, so the blue highlighted, that's that shared common cost calculation. And then we added the policy payment. Those are the cash payments that that are paid based on that policy to the various associations every year. So those two together, that's how we calculated the approximate average cost for the associations.
So if I hear that right then, so then the association costs for insurance, and that isn't shared with the county, they still have to pay that because they still have insurance to pay, and everything else that you took off, they have to pay. So is that what that 107,000 is for underneath that line?
Yeah, so through the chair, so this would be all of the financial costs that the county has incurred, either directly or indirectly, and then anything, because like you had noted, the associations are, as their own entities, they do have their own financial obligations, their own financial statements. We haven't included aspects of their financial statements in this summary, just strictly the county financial statements.
What I can't see is clear. The 3-year average for the associations is 175,000, and then the county halls is 199,000. That's the difference. But these association halls, they still have to pay utilities and fuel and insurance. And historically, they were paying 60-40. And they're still paying 60-40 on equipment too. But as costs go up, the money gets more. And then the county ones, there's no extra drain out of the communities. The county covers it all. Where on the other side of the county, there's a 40% drain coming out of the communities to make up that 40%. And I'm hearing from people over there, they pay taxes too, and it's going over here to pay all of the counties, but they still have to come up with the 40%. Now I know there's different ways of looking at it, but basically that's the bottom line. And it kind of shows it out if that's an accurate summary, the 175,000 as compared to the 200,000 is the difference that we're paying. Is that, can I say that, or is that, am I missing something?
So through the chair, something to consider with this as well as I believe that the 40-60 split would be more of a capital related cost, whereas this particular table that we're on right now is just strictly for the operating costs and that side of things.
There could be significant differences for operating costs between the association halls and the county halls as well. I just looked at the 2024 yearly statistics, and between the three county departments, Wheatland, West Carsland, and Gleason, they did 62% of the calls, with the 5 association departments doing 38% of the calls. So you may see that translate into some differences in operating costs like fuel. I'm not sure how much it would directly impact other things, but there could be some operational expenses that do hinge on that call volume. We certainly respect the autonomy of the associations, and I think that community support really signals support for that model as well, and we've always been very respectful of that. But I think this is, there's a lot of considerations regarding how those expenditures are funded. Obviously, when we're providing the 60% out of our operating budget for assets that the county, the way that the agreements are structured, don't own, it does impact our financial picture because we have that significant, and like, for example, this year there was really significant expenditures as shown in some of the reserves indicators, but that doesn't translate into assets through our financial statements as well. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Thank you. Heard this discussion a few times here, and I'm just wondering how we can resolve or answer some of it. I guess I'm thinking if the associations have a concern about an agreement, I don't know how old those agreements are. I don't have that information at my fingertips. They can certainly request to have those reviewed and updated, and council can look at it. Or they could go through, there's several processes with our contracted, or our fire captain, whatever his title is right at the moment. Any of them could ask to have that updated and reviewed. Like I said, I don't know if it's 20 years old, I don't know if it's 5 years old, but that's something that would probably answer all these questions direct to the people that are asking them. Just a way to try to resolve it. And then council will decide if it's, based on information given, what to do.
Councillor Kester.
I don't think anybody's asking for a review. I just want to know what the costs are. And I'm trying to understand it. So if you can help me understand it, I'd appreciate it. So on the first line there, I like this page. I think it answers my question. I just want to make sure I'm correct. You got the shared costs, you done that, you got an average. You got the common costs, average 95,000 a haul, great. 3-year average, great. Then we got the association, so we have the shared cost plus the cost we give them for operating and small capital, right? So they come up with the 203. We go down to the county halls and they got the shared cost, right? And they come up with all these other costs to 233,000. It is $33,000 more than the other one. So if they were to get the same operating and small capital payment as the associations were, they would be in a bigger deficit. I understand that. But these are hard costs. These are bills you've actually paid for the 233,000, and the associations are getting 203,000 with nothing but fuel and stuff there.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair, I just want to speak to that a little bit. So the county halls, those are our other internal expenses that aren't included as part of the shared cost. So you're not seeing as part of the association halls, there are other costs that aren't part of shared. Things like the utilities, the facility services, and the fuel. That's why we're seeing a differential in cost. So I don't believe we have access to that information, but that's why you're seeing a differential in cost there for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
But I think a premise of the association
The
model.
county's putting in $203,000 a haul for the associations and $233,000 for the county-owned ones. I can say that I think that's black and white or in blue and brown or, but that's a true statement, I would think. That the other costs that the associations face for their fuel and everything else, that comes out still from their budget, wherever that is, right? That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, and I
That's
think
my
it's part of what the model has been based on, and it is aligned with that premise of with autonomy comes that financial contribution. And I think unfortunately that is why historically we did see the dissolution of some of the other associations, is because meeting those community contributions or volunteer commitments to maintain the sort of the governance of the associations. I don't know all the history of all of it, but I know it was complex, did become challenging. But I think one of the basic premises of the association model is that cost sharing, and so I don't think it would be fair to expect that there would be full financial contributions by the county when the county doesn't have the ownership and the oversight of how those association fire departments are run. Yeah, it's very complex. And I think if you analyze this based on like response to call volumes and that type of thing, it would look very different too. And that could reflect negatively on the associations and the financial contributions the county provides. So I think at this point we're providing significantly more funding per call, for example, to an association hall than we are to a county hall. Now, I freely admit that gets very sensitive because at the base foundational understanding of fire services, we appreciate that those fire departments are available and ready, and we need to fund them well so that they are available when they're needed. And that does not always, especially in rural and remote areas where we have low population densities and that type of thing, it becomes even more critical to have a strong fire service that can cover that geography and those costs. And that's why I think we don't want to look at equating to call volumes. Like, I think there's some rationale for not using that because you need that base fire service. But there are some considerations when it's an association and they do have that full autonomy. Any other questions or discussions on this report? I do appreciate administration, the work that went into this and the comprehensiveness again of the reporting. I'm sure it took a significant amount of time, but I think it's good to analyze this. I was really grateful to see sort of the projections on the reserve, and grateful that the Fire Capital Committee, all of the work that they do, and that there will be continued work sort of on those projections and forecasting for future capital needs. Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Kester. Oh, you turned your microphone off.
I move that council accepts the fire service financial review report as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 8.41.
Good morning, Council. Brad Bullock, representing the May 2025 Transportation and Agriculture Department report. The report begins on 211 of the agenda for Council's information, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the transportation report?
Just want an update. Township Road 240, has that been tendered? And when will they start, if it has been?
Through the chair, the tender has closed, and administration has reviewed the tender results and selected a contractor. The contractor's not yet 100% finalized. We're just reviewing a few of the details to make sure that the tender requirements are fulfilled in full. But that contract we anticipate should be fully executed very soon, and then we can release that information. And once that's executed, one of the first orders of business will be to get a construction schedule from the contractor for start dates and end dates. And so as soon as we have that, we'll make sure to include that in the report to council.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Custer.
It's not on the report, but I got a request for, I guess, the children playing, or caution, slow down. I think we had one last meeting for around Clooney. This is at 254-044 Range Road 241. She phoned the county, they put her on to Public Works. Public Works phoned me. And I say I have to bring it to a meeting in Public Works. It seems to be I don't know, it's always been like that, but if somebody phoned in here, I can't. Council has to approve it, but council always says Public Works, phone them up and usually the applicant pays for the sign, am I correct? Or?
I'm not 100% sure on this situation around this one, but I can look into it for sure.
Yes, so through the chair, there is a fee for children at play signs. So it is, I think it's $250 a sign, and you can get one way, but $500 total. Councillor Laprise did circulate by email kind of like a sign that they could put in. I've seen them around before as well, but it just, I guess, depends where you live too, or where the the actual thing is. So there are some solutions in play, but as per schedule of fee bylaw, it is listed in there, and it's $250 a sign each way.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. I'm just thinking to make it the application easier, because to the applicant it looks, they start here and it goes right around in a circle and going to end right back up where it is.
Administration can look into clarifying with our team to make sure that there's consistent processes.
Yes, through the chair, definitely we'll look into it. And there are some rules around where signs can go and things like that. That's why I didn't want to. So yeah, we'll certainly look into it and see what we can do.
And I know the email that Councillor Priest circulated around. I've also been here long enough that other ratepayers put up different signs for different things in the county, and the county's made them all go away. I've got signs erupting in my area where people think they seem to open the road, so it's always an issue. But I would, if somebody wants to put up a different sign, I think they should clear it with Public Works first, just so you're aware. So if the grader clips it off or something, we're not on the hook.
Yeah, I think we have
What I'm
line
getting
items.
at for this individual person, do I need a motion that we refer her to Public Works, or can I just phone her up and tell her to phone Public Works and you'll look after her?
Yeah, I think through the chair, it sounds like there's been some conversations that have happened already, so I will look into it. I don't think a motion would be required right now. If we look into it and there's some kind of unusual circumstances that would need to involve council, we'll bring that back, but I would be surprised if there are.
Okay, so I'll get her to phone you back.
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay. And I had another, last meeting, I complained about the bridges. And I went home and every bridge is rated now. Just about every bridge in the county, the good ones are at 54 ton. I think I got one on the Rocky Ford Road that isn't rated. And maybe one over around Rosebud. I haven't been on it lately, but last time there was no sign on it. The rest are 54 ton. We've watched our roads deteriorate and we complain to the province. Now our bridges are going down. And we're talking fire services. We have fire trucks that are well over the 54 ton. We got one. And it's hard to beat. They won't get around to the different fires in the county. We have to do something. So I thought the first thing we could do, if we could have an inventory of all the rated bridges and the non-rated bridges, just the number count. I've got bridges that are rated and not rated, that have to be a bridge on that Red Deer. And 2 miles down the road, there's culverts in that bridge. If we put culverts in, I think it would expedite but we've got to come up with some way. We got to work with the province and get these bridges fixed. Because those roads are going to deteriorate fast if they have to start going around. These are big trucks, big machinery, and those roads aren't. We've built our transportation network with the bridges in mind. You take the bridges away, we have to redo it. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, through the chair, council does have a resolution for administration to put together a fulsome report in regards to the bridges and restrictions, et cetera. So that is getting prepared right now and will be back to council in the near future. And so I think with that information, it'll allow us with administration and the council to have a fulsome discussion around this and look at administration's efforts in terms of our capital plan and things like that. That we presented to council and we have in front of us right now, and be able to review that as well in terms of potential upgraded in bridges, or if council wants us to make adjustments to the approach that administration has taken with that or the current capital plan, then of course that discussion could be had.
I think the only adjustment, unless maybe you're doing it already, was an actual count. Like there's 500 bridges that are rated 10 ton, and there's 50 bridges at 54 and one not rated.
Through the chair, we can include that type of information in the report.
Just to add numbers, it makes it more relevant to me.
Yeah, the motion indicated the location and load rating, so it would be easy enough to count. Councillor Laursen.
And just so you understand this, but when you rate a thing at 54 ton, the average B train, so there's your grain haulers, your oil field haulers, the one fire truck even, just about any truck is 63.5. So that's a pretty significant difference. Now, all of these people can't get their crops in, the oil companies can't get their oil hauled. It's a big issue.
I guess further to that, out in your area, my area, they're actively drilling oil wells. And there's derricks going up and tanks. Those things are way more than 54 ton.
Yeah.
I know they apply for special permits to cross bridges, but it's out there and it's going to affect our ability to do business. And I think we got to get a handle on it. But you're working on it, and it's just to show my concern.
Yeah, this is certainly an issue that's been decades in the making, and it's throughout all of rural Alberta. And I think it's exemplary that our administration has been being really prudent in their inspections of bridges, ensuring that they're all registered and that they're all identified. And we've been making, I don't want to use the word unprecedented, I don't like it, but substantial investments in our bridge capital maintenance consistently in our last several capital budgets, based on the fact that these issues exist and they exist throughout the county. So I think it is important for industry and for our residents that we're making those investments. And again, it just goes back to the critical importance of our asset management work, and the fact that we did the bridges first, I think, was based on this identified issue. So very grateful to the work our administration is doing, and council will absolutely be needing to take this into consideration when we're approving capital budgets. Any other questions or discussion? Councillor Baker.
Thank you. So the Goldfinch Waterline, do you know when the proposed end date would be? And if they're ahead of schedule or behind schedule? Just curious.
Yes, to the chair. From the original scheduled date, they are a little bit behind schedule. Right now, the scheduled completion date is September 30th. With full demobilization by mid-October. So we're working with the contractor on that. Also, as Councillor Bigger, you're aware, there's a large development coming in that's going to be reliant on that water line, and so we are coordinating with that developer as well as we go through and making sure that we can support them in their water needs. So far, we're okay, but we are continuing that coordination with them.
Deputy Rick Clausen.
Just back to the bridge file here. Since it's been discussed a few times, I drive quite a bit, and I notice that there's more signs out there than there ever has been before. I see that they're strategically located in an intersection, so before you go down that road, it's there. I'm assuming, and the report will probably cover this, that some of these never had signs before, but there is still GVWs and all that stuff for vehicles that you're not allowed to go over certain weights regardless. And yeah, you get some of those big heavy trucks on a bridge that can't handle it. I'd much rather have it banned or rated before someone falls through it. So, but there is definitely more signage out there, so I'm sure it'll come to us why. But looking forward to the information.
Any other questions regarding the transportation and agriculture report? Councillor Kester.
I don't know if it's really a transportation thing outside of, it's a road issue. A few years ago, council put a part of our land use, we'd have, I think it's 5 parcels per quarter section. If you wanted more than 5 parcels, you had to provide pipes services. Okay, so we thought that'll limit it.
Just Councillor Kester, point of order. Is this related to the transportation and agriculture
Yeah,
report?
because they got to get to these places.
Okay.
So we limited it. We figured that would be good. But now council lately, and has been across the road, we add 4 more. And we can cross that road 4 more, and we got 16 at an intersection. We end up like in Tom's area where I keep saying there's 20. I think we got to think about this again. The intersection, the road, the dust, and now the bigger trucks and stuff. Don't talk about it now, but I would like to include that in a committee of the whole meeting at some point. I think we should give it some thought. It's something we can't walk right into. I've been through it before, but that's getting to be a real load on our transportation network. I don't know, do you need a bridge included in a future COW meeting, or is that just, you'll think about it and bring it back?
If you want administration to do something, then definitely put it in a motion so we have it down so we.
Make a motion that council bring back land use subdivisions at a meeting of their choosing. I don't want to put a date on it, but
through the chair, just one moment, we'll just draft something and then get it up on the screen for council.
I think there is one.
Yeah. Did you email it or? Huh? Oh, okay. Can I move that?
Sure.
The council direct administration bring a report to the committee of the whole reviewing the municipal development plan policies for a number of parcels permitted within a quarter section and the impact on adjacent quarter sections on the road network. Perfect. Thank you.
Any questions or discussion on the motion?
This is going to open up into a broader picture of the land use bylaws and stuff, which I have no problem with. But I believe a lot of the impacts on traffic were already, a lot of it's discussed if it even meets that threshold, but maybe we need to lower the thresholds. I'm fine with it.
Any other questions or discussion? Yeah, I guess for me, it wasn't that long ago that the municipal development plan, we undertook a comprehensive review and council approved some changes to mitigate fragmentation of agricultural land. I guess my question to administration would be how we would integrate, if we're contemplating potential changes, how we would integrate public engagement into that. But I guess we could address that once a report around our existing policies and considerations of that comes back. Yeah, I think what council has been doing has been applying our statutory plans consistently, and decisions have been aligned with the approved plans that we have in place based on recommendations from our administration. And as Deputy Reeve Clausen indicated, there are requirements for studies and including traffic impact assessments that our administration review as well when bringing those recommendations forward. So I believe we have sound planning principles that we're applying to the decisions and a sound, consistent planning framework that we're applying to those decisions. Happy to see administration bring a report forward about the policies that we have in place regarding this. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. Motion to accept the transportation report.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Eckert. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That motion is carried. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.